marketing for my you.
Hey, everybody. I'm so excited about this episode. NFTs, the State of the Union. We've got tons of great guests with us today. Episode number 32. So please keep the conversation going. Hashtag marketing for the now. Let's go. One other quick thing. We just hear Avery. You can bring Avery on.
Episode number.
Avery, we just heard from Gary that he is not able to join us. Unfortunately, he is still on a plane that has yet to land, but we're going to be okay. You're going to be interviewing Paris Hilton. I hope that's okay. Big surprise. But first up, we've got, so I have Avery Ekanini, president of Vayner NFT, who is going to kick us off with our conversations. And we have Lisa Behr joining us. Lisa is many, many things. She is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and founder and CEO of My Social Canvas and the Boss Beauties. She's got her kick-ass leather jacket. You're going to have to show us both the front and the back, I have a feeling, Lisa. We're so excited to hear more about the mission that you're on in helping support young girls and with all of the work that you're doing, as well as how the NFT drop has impacted that. So over to the two of you.
Awesome. Andrea, thank you so much for introducing us. And thank you everyone for tuning in. It is my honor to be here today with Lisa. Lisa, in addition to being an extraordinary entrepreneur, is a dear friend and just an amazing person. So Lisa, thank you so much for joining us.
Avery, thanks for having me. I'm so honored. I feel like this is just a coffee chat almost. We're chatting and catching up. So I love it.
I know. I love it. And I think, it was maybe 6 months ago when we were doing this and the launch before Boss Beauties, I think you were sitting in that exact same position. So you started Boss Beauties 6 months ago. So much has happened since then. I would love for you to tell our listeners a little bit around the origin story behind Boss Beauties and why you decided to bring it to life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Boss Beauties is really an extension of the work that I've been doing for the last decade. So in the space of NFTs, I've been in this space for 6 months, which feels like a long time, even though it's been less than a year. But I've been in the space of mentoring and empowering women for the last 10 years. With my previous work, we've mentored women, had Olympic athletes, we've had CEOs, entrepreneurs, women in the fashion industry sit down and really mentor women in college and high school from our community. So mentorship and empowerment is totally my passion. It's my dream job. It's what gets me up every morning and wakes me up. But really, I found the NFT space about a year ago and was so excited. I actually have to give some credit to Gary, because who hasn't watched some of his videos, looked at some of the content and been inspired? So, that's part of what inspired me to get into the space, actually. I have to give him some credit. But, when I founded Boss Beauties with Anthony, my husband, it would have been a crazy time to start a new company or start a project in the NFT space. But I knew that the timing was so right. I knew the timing was perfect. If I didn't start it then, I would probably never do it. I was actually a new mom. I think I told you that, Avery, when we first met. I had a 3-month-old baby. I was in that phase as a mom, getting up 3 or 4 times a night with my newborn to feed him. Just honestly, I was operating on very limited sleep, but that is actually showing how much I believed in the NFT space and the future of Web3. So that's a little bit of my story. I mean, again, not the perfect timing to start something in the NFT space, but I knew the timing was right and I had to jump in at that time.
I think that your timing was incredible, Lisa. One, with your dual role as a caregiver, that's particularly inspiring, but also just in terms of the NFT market maturity, I think you joined and you created this community at this right time when a lot of women were curious about NFTs. And I believe for a lot of your community, this might have been their first ever NFT. You did multiple education sessions to bring them along.
Totally. Yeah. And you were actually our first NFT education session. We had people that had never been involved in the space at all. They didn't know what an NFT was. And Avery, I was so grateful that you jumped on and helped educate our community. So
that was so fun with Yam. I remember that was a great day, and I can't believe how recently it was. But anyway, so just as a lot of your community was new to NFTs and we were teaching them the fundamentals, there are a lot of brand leaders who are watching right now who are also interested in NFTs, but they have no idea how to get involved. What would be your advice for companies who are interested in this space, but not sure where to start?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. So I have 3 things that I'm going to share if you're working at a brand or maybe you want to jump into the NFT space, but you don't know where to start. So here are my 3 things. Number 1, my advice is to really immerse yourself in the community, in the NFT space before launching something or really entering as a brand, right? At the end of the day, business is really about people, right? And the NFT space is no different. So get to know the space, get to know the community, get into the Twitter, but it goes so much farther than that. I would say is really to get to know everyone and spend time. It's not going to happen overnight. I've seen, influencers and companies try to get into the space overnight, and you really need to have some patience, like get in and learn before you launch a project. And finally, my 3rd thing is be authentic. Be authentic and intentional. Explore meaningful partnerships, right? Which I know you could partner with Vayner NFT and some of the brands that you work with, but really explore ways that you can be authentic and stay true to your values as a brand when you enter the space. So those are my 3 things. And that's my piece of advice.
That's so smart, Lisa. And I know you also did that before you launched Boss Beauties. You were a collector. You were integrated with some of the artists in this space and the community in the space. And that, I think really showed as you all went through your minting process. So on that note, Boss Beauties has successfully collaborated with so many amazing brands. And I think you all are really the gold standard when it comes to thinking about crafting the right brand partnerships with NFT programs. So I would love to understand from you a little bit of how these all came to life. You've done Barbie, you've done Neiman Marcus, Hugo Boss, Marvel. These are some incredible brands. How did those sort of come to life? And tell us a little bit more about why these collaborations worked.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, we're so honored and excited that we've had the chance to partner with incredible brands out there. But really, it goes back into my final point as far as advice to brands. We were really looking to be intentional and explore partnerships with brands that aligned with our values in some way, right? So as an example, with Barbie, and I have to say, my 5-year-old self never thought that I would be an entrepreneur and partner with Barbie to impact women and give back to women. So that was a dream partnership. We launched an NFT together with Barbie. We're exploring a lot of other things with them, but that I can't quite share just yet. But when building that partnership and the others, we were thinking of ways we could make it a win for Barbie as well as Boss Beauties, right? So 100% actually of the proceeds from our NFT collaboration went back to the Barbie Dream Gap project, which empowers women and girls to dream big. And then, that was something that was a win for us to be able to partner with them and collaborate. We also partnered with Hugo Boss, and we launched some merchandise. The merchandise actually sold out, I believe, in a day on Hugo Boss's website. They have to restock some of it now.
I wanted to get one and I couldn't. I'm going to have to get the secret hookup from the CEO.
We'll be able to hook you up. We can totally hook you up. But yeah, I think with that was a win for us to partner together. We're also funding Dream Like a Boss, which is a mentorship program with support from Hugo Boss for women and girls. So they'll learn about the fashion industry and learn about business. But we also, as I said, drove a lot of, marketing for that product collaboration and worked with them on that. So I think building very authentic collaborations is what we've been able to do. And we're excited to do that in the future too.
That's so amazing, Lisa. What I'm hearing from you is what you're looking for in partners is folks who really share your values and can help take Boss Beauties to IRL or Boss Beauties to a more broader base of consumers. And then the value that Boss Beauties can play is helping these more traditional companies merge into the world of Web3 in a way that they're going to be warmly welcomed and doing something that's a force for good.
Totally. You summed it up so perfectly. I love that, Avery.
Well, I've got one more question, and I feel like 10 minutes flies by. You often say that Boss Beauties is a vehicle to empower young women. Can you share with our listeners, a little bit more about what you're doing to reach women, empower them, and encourage them to do anything in their life and in their career? I know there's the brand partnership side, but as a holder, I also see all the communication you all are putting out, and it seems like you're doing a lot.
Totally. Yeah, no, this is actually what wakes me up every morning and gets me so excited, is our work. So just this month, we surprised 14 students with a $10,000 scholarship.
Wow.
Just the start. There's a lot of other scholarships we'll be awarding soon, but we surprised them for Women's History Month with a scholarship. And then we have a mentorship program where they get access to powerhouse women in different industries, like I said, from Olympic athletes to CEOs, women in fashion and tech. One of the women we mentored last year just landed her dream internship at Facebook, working in computer science. Another woman we've mentored landed her dream job at Disney, Anika, and she's been a part of our Boss Beauties family for several years. I've attended some of their college graduations. It's just something that we're really passionate about. So whether it be mentorship or scholarships or just giving them access to amazing mentors and women role models like yourself, that's what we're all about. And that's how we want to change their career and support them in their dreams as well.
That's incredible. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I hope you have an incredible day, and we will catch you very soon.
Thank you for having me. I loved it. So much fun.
Thank
and
you,
everybody
Lisa.
Follow Beauties on Twitter and join their Discord. It is a little plug I have to make.
A must. So next up, Avery, we welcome Rachel Weiss, and she's got a new incredible title. She is partner of Bold Corporate Venture Fund at L'Oreal USA. Rachel lives and breathes all things pop culture, beauty, and technology. And she's been called a futurist, a culture analyst, writer, operator, community builder, and technologist. And she's forging the vision for and the future for L'Oreal. Welcome, Rachel.
Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. I agree with all of those accolades and then some. And I have to say, I love your lipstick necklace, very on brand for L'Oreal. I think you might be on mute. But we are so excited that you are joining us here today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Great.
Perfectly. So Rachel, I'm going to start off by sharing something a little bit fun about you. You are the proud owner of a blonde CryptoPunk. Can you tell our audience a little bit about how you got into NFTs sort of personally, and then we'll talk about your role at L'Oreal and all the amazing things you're doing there.
Well, I started to really get very intrigued, I would say around 2013, 14, what was happening in the world of cryptocurrency. And just started to study it as an economy and play. I mean, I've always, as someone who has been working in innovation since the advent of the internet, I always have elements of FOMO. And I spent a lot of time during the pandemic, I will tell you, listening to Clubhouse, talking with crypto
Clubhouse 2020.
Clubhouse 2020, and learning about NFTs, and just started having a lot of FOMO. And there was actually someone, I will not name names, got a call from Gary and said, do you know these CryptoPunks? Then he called me and he said, do you know about this NFT stuff? What do you know about CryptoPunks? I said, I don't really know anything, but I'm going to see if I can get one. So that's it. That is how it happened. It's a lot of element of FOMO and spending a lot of off hours studying and talking with strangers over the internet.
Really doing your own research. You were hearing about it, you were listening, you were reading, you were talking to your friends who are also sort of leaders in this space, and you thought, okay, I'm in. For listeners who and viewers who might not be familiar, what is a CryptoPunk and what's special about the project?
I mean, I think it was one of the first early projects I saw that was really about like owning a piece of, it was just such a vibrant community of people, right, who were like early in this space. I was just very curious about it. I didn't even really know what was special about it. I was really drawn by the community of people who were just getting involved, which sometimes for me is enough of a dangling object for me to want to try something and see what's out there.
Amazing. Okay, Rachel, so let's pivot and talk a little bit about your story. Congratulations on the new role at L'Oreal. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to and how you got here?
Yeah, I mean, I have worked at L'Oreal for 15 years, really as a very early digital employee of the company. At a time when I came to L'Oreal, Web 2 was very new to the business. It was an emerging platform, and really worked to talk about and educate and grow how social media could be a part of growth for a big beauty company. And built early programs with YouTube and Snap and Pinterest. And I argue that some of the largest beauty platforms that we take for granted today, beauty is a very fundamental part of growth of those platforms. And being at L'Oreal at the foundation and beginning of that has been very exciting. My new role is very much about investing and what the next, decade and 20 years looks like, which we all know who's on this podcast is rapidly changing. And to be able to be an investor in that space, aside from being an operator, is very exciting for me, as we can empower new economies, more diverse entrepreneurs, which has always been at my heart, and really educate around what these new opportunities look like for the world's largest beauty company.
Yeah, absolutely. And Rachel, it's incredible. You mentioned a lot of the sort of leaders within the Web 2 world, like YouTube and Snapchat. From your perspective, do you see any parallels between what happened 10 years ago with Web 2 and what's happening today with Web 3?
Well, I'm going to age myself because I was also at the forefront of Web 1. So
it's all those amazing, beauty products and personal care products. Like you couldn't tell a bit.
But I do feel like I actually feel much more now like I did when I first started my career in the 90s about like what's happening here. Something revolutionary and radical is happening. And I don't totally understand it, but it's going to change how we communicate. Technology is changing. It's changing how we operate in our identity on the internet. So I think as someone who's Gen X, what I love about what's happening in Web3, it's taking us back more to that chaotic, authentic identity where no one knows really what they're doing or talking about in a way that's very raw. And I think Web 2 evolves so much to be packaged and to be about putting a certain image forward. And I find myself what I found myself really excited about what's happening in philosophically right now is that it's kind of going back to that feeling of we're all on an even playing field, and what happens next.
I love that. And I remember I actually was living in San Francisco, and I moved there to work at Google in 2012. And I was feeling like this crazy, like what's happening? Things are moving so quickly. And, all my friends who were normal thought I was crazy for doing it. Then it became normal. And now I'm in Miami in 2022. And it's the same thing where it feels like this chaotic, like energy and excitement, but we're sort of building the plane as we're flying it. So I echo that sentiment. And
I love that. I think that's so exciting.
It's so exciting and fun. And L'Oreal has also been an early pioneer of sort of early days in this space. So can you tell us a little bit about how L'Oreal has dipped its fingernails into the world of NFTs?
Well, going back to our conversation we just said about digital identity and beauty, building some of the largest platforms, L'Oreal has been a very early adopter in augmented reality. And if you really think about and communities and fans, right? Like I don't think of our brands having communities as consumers. They're fans. We have fans of our brands and fans of our advocacy. And I really thought about like, what does it look like for us to start to dip our toes in, over a course during the days on Clubhouse, I met Lady Phoenix, who is a very early advocate for talking about what the economy around NFTs can be. We worked together to sponsor with our brand NYX Cosmetics, the Meta Gala, and in combination with Mimi Choi and Rebecca Minkoff, we created a very unique AR filter that you could wear to the gala and you would have as a token for participating. So it was a really early space around the concept that augmented reality meets NFTs meets digital expression could be something that could really be the future of what beauty, what a value in beauty could be for in the NFT Web3 space.
I love that. And I also love that L'Oreal has done an incredible job of galvanizing your brand fans and your communities and bringing along others like into this space as well. You just talked about the partnership with Meta Gala and with Rebecca Minkoff, what your company did with Reds of Worth and a number of NFT native artists, another extension of that really brings more people in this sort of sense of inclusivity that I think is core to how L'Oreal communicates.
Yeah,
So,
and I think, yeah, no, absolutely.
So, all right, you all know what you're doing. We've got Rachel at the helm now helping shape this bold ventures. What would be your advice and your guidance to some of the brands who are looking to get involved with this NFT space? What's the Rachel Weiss take on what they should do?
Well, I think one thing I've learned along the way, and along with my partners and in the company, is that it's think beyond just a campaign. Really learn the infrastructure of how this works. We took a step back after that first campaign to really think about what do secondary markets look like? How do we build this? Like, there's a lot. It's not just a drop and campaign. There is infrastructure attached to it, and learning about that and educating your organization is extremely important. The second thing is, think about what's next. If you are going to get your toes dipped and you're getting all this excitement and your PR headline, your community wants to know, like, all right, now what? I think the difference between Web 2 and Web 3 is that people really want to participate in your brand and your story in an ongoing way versus just a one-off drop, right? And don't disappear. Those are really my 3 learnings that I've learned this year. Don't think of your humans who participate as consumers. Really think about them as your fans.
I love that. Don't ghost. Think about them as your fans. I think that's such good advice.
I know. I got into this space because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of brands. I'm a fan of beauty. I'm a fan of technology. I'm a fan of startups, right? Like, and I've always, my success I attribute is to the community around me who cared about the same things. And it's been hard, but now like there's infrastructure that community, you can connect with all kinds of people. And I think that's super, super exciting.
Yeah, Rachel, I also just want to commend you, like one of the leading female executives who's a proud owner of some of the, best NFTs and best parts of collections. So I think it's really inspirational how you are personally in the community yourself. And that puts you in such a great place to advise and guide, others in your company and some of your investments. So thank you so much for joining us today. Very much appreciate it. And we will catch you very shortly.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Rachel. Next up, we welcome the team from Behr Paint Company. We've got Jodi Allen, who's the global CMO, and Andy Lopez, the VP of brand marketing. They have made quite the team as they made their first NFT drop at South by Southwest. Welcome, Jodi and Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. Jodi and Andy, thank you all so much for taking the time to join us. I love the backgrounds and the colors behind. You all have been incredible partners very recently with Vayner on doing your first activation into the world of Web3. You made your first dive into the NFT space at South by Southwest, partnering with the Doodles project. So I would love to understand and share a little bit more with our audience on how this all came to life.
Great. Well, I'll take that one. So thank you, Avery. We're really excited to be here. And, as I think about the partnership, color really has always been very integral to the Behr brand. And so, as we really thought through this, we were really looking for a partner in the metaverse who is just as colorful as we feel we are. And we were really looking for a partner that would be a perfect match for our brand. And, as we explored with you and the teams, we had I felt like a unique and creative opportunity where Behr was able to come in and help Doodles create this real life experience at South by Southwest. And then Doodles really did an amazing job of introducing Behr to a new, innovative, colorful, a very fun community that I would say we probably hadn't been fully reaching before. And we really felt like this partnership was super authentic, and we're really excited about how everything really worked out so far.
Amazing. It was a match made in color heaven. So let's go back in time a little bit. I think we started talking about this in December when the Doodles project had very recently launched. I want to hear your honest take when we were first like, yes, Behr executives, you should do a partnership with the Doodles. What was your honest take on the project?
Yeah. I think we actually heard from Doodles from you guys, working with you guys, coming up with some exciting innovation. We came to you, we said, hey, we want to kind of get in this space. But, I think what the theme of this has been really that authenticity. And I think when we heard about Doodles, our first instinct was, hey, let's kind of look up this brand a little bit more. We at that point, which is hard to believe, just a few months ago, we were still in that early phase of trying to understand how brands played a role in the NFT world. So, after you mentioned about Doodles and we looked them up and we saw, again, that colorful palette that they had and just those iconic colors, it just felt natural like a natural partnership that we just had to be a part of. And after learning about, their story specifically around the founders, after learning a little bit more about their community, just learning about the impact that they've made in the NFT space, and the important role that color played, we were super excited about it. And I think we just wanted to figure out, and we were super eager, as Avery had helped us through these last couple of months, to just get started and make something happen with them as soon as possible. And in a really, authentic and big way.
Amazing. And Andy, for the folks who are not familiar with exactly what we did at South by, our now iconic paint can, maybe you can tell us a little bit about like why the partnership was a perfect fit for Behr, and then also how it actually came to life at South by, which is in many ways like the center of creativity and culture making for this progressive new community.
Yeah, exactly. And as Jodi mentioned at the beginning, it's really all around this idea of color. Color is the best way for our brand to really inspire and motivate and truly show like what that transformation is for our products and what they can do. And so when you combine that, with leveraging those Doodles iconic colors, it creates such an authentic partnership. And it felt so natural to be able to launch that in real life and bring their world into South by Southwest and at South by Southwest, where we have these innovators and these creators and these entrepreneurs. And, I think to be able to immerse yourself into that palette and really, gain that experience and understand the different colors. I mean, it was so fun to pick Behr colors that match so closely with the Doodles palette so that, people can go out and buy those colors and paint their rooms and really live and breathe the Doodle experience every single day, because that community is so special. So that was fun to be able to kind of immerse yourself into that. And then, as you mentioned, we have the paint cans, which was a nice experience where you could, there's a POAP on it where you can scan it, and it's kind of our first entry into that space as well, which was super exciting. And then another nice little touch was we had colorful M&Ms that matched the colors of the Doodle. So again, it's an authentic way to do it, but still a surprise and delight for the consumers that were attending the event, and then just as exciting for people that were following on the social space and being able to see it and kind of live through it virtually as well.
That is so true, Andy. I think there were many Instagrammable moments. And one of my favorites was part of the Behr activation at the Doodles event was this spray paint can that said Behr on it. And you could basically virtually spray paint this digital wall. And it was really fun and cool, especially as you got to play with it. And actually Beeple played with it, who is the most valuable living NFT artist, which was pretty cool. And I saw that post go viral on Twitter. So it was nice to see the community really engaging and loving the experience that was so carefully designed. And just to like the earlier points of Lisa, who's a creator in this space, I think it felt so authentic and natural, and that's what really made it work.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So, Jodi, I'd love to ask you, in what ways did this sort of initial foray allow you all to connect with the NFT community? And were you expecting this kind of a response? Like, you're a CMO at a paint company, this, world is very fast, ever changing. So I'd love to hear from you on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it definitely exceeded our expectations. As you mentioned, we really started working together on this back in December, and I feel like, together what we were able to accomplish, and then just to see the reaction of the NFT community and this partnership in real time was amazing, and super engagement. And what I really felt like was there was a great connection of our brand to the community. And then, as I looked at kind of the momentum that was building, really leading up, as well as during the South by Southwest activation, and then after, I would say, we've seen really incredible engagement throughout. So, it's interesting because as I learned more about Doodles throughout this entire process, I really, Doodles obviously has a really large footprint and the NFT community with a lot of really positive following. But they really did a great job of helping kind of bridge us into that community in such a unique and fun way. Like I said, with the engagement that more than we could have ever expected.
Amazing. Andy, I know we've got just 1 minute left here. So maybe give us a little alpha, give us a little tease. Where do you think this partnership with Doodles could go in the future?
Yeah. I'll just say, when it comes to color, the possibilities are really endless. I think we're always just finding new and innovative ways to really bridge that in real life experience with the metaverse, So, I would say South by Southwest was just, laying the foundation of an ongoing partnership between Behr and Doodles, and we're really excited to work with them and see what more we can do together.
Amazing. I love it. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to join us. Appreciate it, and look forward to hearing more about what's next with Behr in the NFT space.
Awesome. Thank you.
For having
Thank you,
us.
team. Love that background. All right, next up, we welcome Pepsi's CMO, Todd Kaplan. Todd oversees all marketing for the Pepsi brand at PepsiCo North America. He has taken an unapologetic and culture-forward approach as he has re-energized the Pepsi brand, delivering its first positive sales growth in more than 10 plus years, including 15 consecutive quarters of positive sales growth and increased brand equity across the board. Gary asked me to apologize, Todd, that he wasn't able to join and lead this conversation today, but he's stuck on a plane. But Miss Avery is going to lead the way.
All good. I love Avery, and I love Gary as well. But all good. How's it going, Avery?
Good. Todd, thank you so much for making the time in your schedule to join us. I know our viewers want to hear from the King of Pepsi on all the amazing things that you all have cooking. Your track record speaks for itself, and all the cool stuff that you've done, all the culture forward moments. And I think the world is still buzzing, recovering from the halftime show. But for today, let's focus on NFTs. So Todd, Pepsi launched one of the most successful NFT programs to date from any brand with Pepsi Mic Drop program. Yep. Can you tell us a little bit about how this sort of NFT journey began and a little bit of the inspiration behind the Mic Drop?
Yeah, sure. We knew we to get into the space since it's been kind of, developing at a very early stage. And we know we wanted to get in a way that was authentic to the Pepsi brand. And Pepsi's always been this brand that's steeped in music and culture, like you said, with the Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show, all the way back to Michael Jackson, Britney Spears, Beyonce. Music is such a deep part of its heritage. And we thought the mic drop is just such a fun way, tapping into the whole generative art kind of trend that's, there in NFTs, but doing it in a way that's very Pepsi. There's only 1,893 of them, which is the year that Pepsi was born, 1893. We gave them out for free to consumers. So we didn't want to charge a minting fee, or and all consumers have actually, through secondary sales, made over $10 million in secondary sales. That's 100% gone to the consumers for it. We've offset the carbon, footprint in making them and just doing it in our own way. And, they've been wildly successful. I think one even sold for $100,000 we saw the other day. So it's been moving. So we're feeling great.
The market is the market, as we like to say, and the market is hot for Pepsi mic drops. So Todd, I think that Pepsi's connection to music is so ubiquitous, and you all have done so much cool stuff with music. Are there any famous collectors of the mic drop that we might want to share with the broader community?
Yeah, there's a bunch of, I know Snoop's got a mic drop. I think he tweeted his right after the Super Bowl halftime show.
I think that went viral, if I'm not wrong.
I think he dropped the mic after he dropped the mic. Go figure. Liam Payne. There's a number of people, that are, continuing to get this. And I think just as you look at our role in music and culture, that Pepsi's always had a rich connection, to kind of a lot of these musicians and whatnot. And we have a really great roadmap built, for the mic drop, and a very ambitious and bold plan around it. I think right now what you're seeing is we're just really pacing ourselves as, we could talk about this too, as a lot of big companies, we have to kind of make sure we're bringing the rest of our organizations along as you think about our legal teams, finance, a lot of other implications as we continue to get deeper in the space. We want to also make sure we're doing it responsibly and for the long haul so we don't get the rug pulled.
Absolutely. I think that's so smart, Todd. And maybe for our other brands who are listening, what is some of, you work for a huge company. How were you able to galvanize all of the appropriate folks across PepsiCo to align on this strategic approach, to pull this off, and like you said, do so in a pretty differentiated way, and that it was a free mint that had incredible demand. Obviously, I was part of it, and I remember the site was like crashing, and it was under like a second when 1,893 people had registered, and you just really a testament to the amount of demand. So how were you able to get everybody aligned, and what would be your guidance for any other brands who are looking to explore this?
Yeah, it's tricky. And this reminds me, I know the big parallel everyone says is, remember when Web 2 happened? And some of you don't. I unfortunately do as an old man here right now that I am. But listen, it is a lot of just the education. It's different when one thing, like when TikTok pops up out of thin air one year and everyone's like, oh, how does it work? There's general principles of Web 2 that are understood. So it's just a different execution of some of the same things, connectivity, video, all of that. As you look at Web 3, the whole infrastructure is different. The digital contracts, NFTs, what is the metaverse? How does all this stuff work? And so cryptocurrency is very scary. You talk from finance people. So as you look at all of these things from a company's lens, there's a lot of education involved as you think of a lot of teams. And frankly, because it's so new, much like when Web 2 started, you're even seeing it continue to get regulated in the Web 2 around privacy and all that. Web 3, as it relates to securities, as it relates to money laundering, there's all these kind of things that could be watch outs as you think about NFTs in the world of NFTs. Big companies need to be responsible and taking the right steps. And so we're doing a lot of education. I'm doing a lot of internal discussions and trainings and immersions and all of that to really get everybody on the same page with what we're trying to do, so that as we move forward, and again, we have big, bold plans to do really great stuff in the space moving forward, not just on Pepsi, but I would imagine across a number of our brands. We want to make sure we're taking the right steps and setting up something for the long haul.
Awesome. And Todd, I think one of the reasons that you really have that long-term vision to build this roadmap and build this multi-year plan for the mic drops and subsequent ways you can include your fans in this experience and really tap into the future of fandom is that you yourself are an NFT collector. How did you sort of get into this space, and any tips and tricks of how you've educated yourself? Because I think you really being that practitioner yourself gives you a really clear vision around what's appealing.
Totally. Listen, a lot of people in my seat or in a lot of other companies, I would say may not want to get their hands dirty, or might just say, hey, send me a white paper, an email, or let me read a couple articles. Like, this space does not work that way. You got to get in it. You got to get dirty. You got to get scammed on Discord. You got to get your crypto stuff going. There's so many layers. And, and I've said this before, right now, the NFT experience for consumers, as a marketer, it pains me because it is a horrible consumer journey. You got to give all this personal information to get your digital wallet. You got to then buy your Ethereum, then and figure out that on Coinbase or wherever you're going. Then you got to figure out your NFT, which project, how you're going to do it. You got to pay gas. You got to then go into the Discord. Like, it's very layered. And I equate it a lot to, when the internet was just starting and Web 2 was just starting, the experience wasn't what it was today. Remember, web pages used to load like bit by bit.
Totally, yes.
Right. And the concept of the internet was not matching the execution of the internet back then. Similarly, when videos started, streaming, bandwidth, all the stuff you're seeing right now with, Netflix and real-time streaming, Zoom would not be possible when Web 2 first started, right? So infrastructure has to catch up. Other apps, developers, and companies are going to be the big things in this space that we've never even heard of, haven't been invented yet today. And there are going to be known entities that we're going to be like, oh yeah, remember them, like the Blockbuster kind of type stuff as well. And so it is at that point where it's early, which is great to kind of immerse yourself, kind of feel the vibe of the space, get involved with some projects, try some stuff. And that's basically what I've been focusing on doing while we're kind of building this as a brand and our strategy, knowing, hey, the rules are going to change 50 times in the next handful of years as we march towards this, eventual metaverse years and years down the road. That's kind of how we're approaching it.
I love it. You're thinking about really that long game. And I mean, Pepsi's been around for centuries, so it's hardly a Web 2 brand, right? We've got a long road ahead in sort of building the future of Pepsi's experiences in the metaverse. So, Todd, can you tell us a little bit about what's coming next and some of the cool stuff that you might have planned? Any IRL tie-ins potentially coming in the future?
Yeah, well, I can't tell you the full, thing that we got planned, obviously, but we do have a lot of really exciting things planned as we think about the Pepsi mic drop for the long term, as we think about building our roadmap, even in terms of our Web3 strategy as around the Pepsi brand. It's a really interesting thought as a marketer to think about, how do you take a brand or a business that is so IRL, right? This is a product you put inside your body, you drink it, it's something. And when you think of like, how does that work if people are going to be spending all this time in a virtual world, right? And what are the things beyond kind of the cola, but as you think about the brand and our role in music, and you think about our role in culture and a lot of other things. And so it's a really fun process to think about. And as we're starting to dream up and look at potential partnerships, look at other ways look at ways to kind of build, from real life to the metaverse to, everything in between, broadcast, and how all these kind of areas really connect together. I just think it's an exciting time, and I'm excited to hopefully share a lot more as we continue on the journey.
Incredible. Todd, thank you so much for taking the time. Everyone follow along. Pepsi on Twitter needs no further introduction. Appreciate you.
No worries.
Thank you, Todd.
All right.
All right. Next up, we welcome the Paris Hilton. She is chairwoman and CEO of 1111 Media. Paris is a pioneer in TV, podcasting, and NFTs, and an innovator in building businesses, social media, and celebrity branding. Since starring in The Simple Life, Paris has built a global empire as a businesswoman. She's also an influencer, activist, DJ, designer, investor, recording artist, philanthropist, host, actress, chef, model, and author. We're so excited to have you today, Paris. And deep apologies from Gary, who's stuck on a plane and wants to have a follow-up conversation later on.
Love it. Thank you. Amazing to be here.
Paris, thank you so much for joining us. And I'll first start off by saying that I'm a huge admirer of your work and your trailblazing all over in different industries, but particularly in Web3. And a lot of times people ask me which celebrities get it, and Paris Hilton is always my first response. So I'm super honored to be here with you today.
Thank you. It means so much to me.
All right. So from starting your own media company to launching your own NFT collection, you seem to always be ahead of what's next in culture and in technology. So can you share with us a little bit about how you became interested in all things Web3 and how your journey got you here?
Well, I've always been an undercover nerd, and I've always been obsessed with technology. And I got involved into the crypto space back in 2016 when I had dinner with the founders of Ethereum. And I just having this dinner, I was just so fascinated by what they were talking about. And, it was all so new to me. I obviously didn't know all the technicalities of it, but I knew I wanted to learn more. I knew this was the future. And then getting involved into the NFT space, that was back in 2019 when I was approached to do my first NFT for charity. And this was benefiting the fires in Australia. And ever since then, I've just been going more and more into the space, and I'm loving it, investing into it and building my metaverse. And it's just been the best time of my life.
And it's just getting started. So you said you started investing in crypto in 2016, so pretty early on. Vitalik is a legend. For anyone who is not familiar with him, check him out. His content is 1, incredibly inspirational, and 2, incredibly entertaining, and 3, incredibly educational. So Paris, you've invested in a lot of crypto startups as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what you look for when you're investing in some of these startups?
I really look into founders who have a vision, people that I really believe in, people who I think are good, kind people who want to give back to the community and are doing things that are innovative and interesting. And that's why I was really drawn to Origin Protocol right from the beginning. I was going on Clubhouse basically every single night during the pandemic and just meeting so many different people in the community. And I started talking with them, with Josh and Matt, and I was just blown away by what they were doing. And I invested into them, and I am their Chief Inspiration Officer as well. So I love people who really want to give back to the creator. I think that's so important. And also investing into genies because I love avatars, I love the metaverse, and so many other different projects. So it's just, I just want to really work with people that I believe are trying to bring good to this space, because unfortunately in these spaces, there are certain people that come in and they're being greedy and they're only thinking of themselves. And I don't want to be associated with those type of people. I want to really just be a part of things and share my platform and my voice with those that are doing good for the world.
That's so inspiring. So everybody check out Genies and Origin Protocol. And Paris, you also have your, most recent NFT collection, Paris, Past Lives, New Beginnings, in collaboration with Super Plastic. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how this collection came to be and also the symbolic meaning behind it.
Well, Past Lives, New Beginnings is symbolic of just my past 2 decades in the media, and especially in the early 2000s when myself and many others were just really treated unfairly. And I feel like I was always underestimated. And now I've really taken back my power, and going to Washington, D.C. and becoming an advocate and fighting for change to stop the abuse of children. And I really believe by telling my story and what I went through that, the truth will set you free. And those were just symbols of those pieces. And then I also did my Polygon piece, which I set the price point at $11.11 because I wanted it to be accessible to others and to my fans. And when we did the research after, we saw that 65% of the buyers of the 25,000 of those had never had a wallet before. This was their first NFT. So it was just really exciting to bring new people into the space. And now my next drop is with the legend Pac, which I'm so excited for Ash Metamorphosis 2. And that drop is happening on March 28th. And I'm just so proud to be a part of it. So many incredibly talented artists, and it's just very exciting.
I love that accessible price point because I think for many new to NFT consumers or crypto curious folks, it can be a little intimidating to be paying, an ETH for a mint or something. So it's, generous and also so strategic to do something that brings in more of your community and have that be their first NFT and first introduction into Web3. So where can we check out your next drop? Where will it be dropping?
That will be, if they go on to Pac's Twitter, they can go onto the link there, and everything is up there. But March 28th is the drop.
Amazing. Follow Pac and of course Paris. Stay tuned for March 28th.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also are in the metaverse, Paris, and you have created Paris World on Roblox. Would love to learn a little bit more about your virtual world, your future in the metaverse, and the epic New Year's Eve virtual party that you have with the platform.
Well, I've been obsessed with the metaverse even before there was a name for it. Back in 2018, I released my documentary, The American Meme, where I was already getting myself mapped out into an avatar because I had thought of this whole world called Paris World where people could come and they can hang out with each other and they could just be any avatar they want to be, and they could watch me DJ, and it could just be this kind of virtual place where people could go hang out. But the technology wasn't available that many years ago. So now to see it coming to life is so exciting. And with Dash Radio, I developed Paris World inside of Roblox. And we did the first ever New Year's Eve party. And we had twice as many people there as in New York Times Square on New Year's Eve. So that was just amazing. And we also just did the first fashion week in the metaverse because New York Fashion Week was happening. And I was like, let's just bring that to Paris World too. Because I really want to bring as many in real life things to the metaverse as well, because not everybody gets to experience certain types of experiences. So yeah. I really love just bringing my world into the metaverse. And now I was just at South by Southwest for Sandbox, and I DJ'd their event there. And now we are going to be building a Paris World inside of there. So yeah, I just feel like with Web3, the possibilities are truly endless. And it's so much fun that we're able to create these amazing worlds and experiences and art. And it's just such what I'm about. So yes.
Yeah, the South by one was the talk of the town in Austin. And it's amazing to see Paris World now coming to Sandbox as well. And what you've done in Decentraland and Roblox, so many amazing places. Paris World takes over the metaverse. So Paris, what is next for you on any front, whether it's NFTs or the metaverse or something beyond?
I'm just going to continue investing into the space, also empowering female artists, especially lifting other artists up, sharing my platform. Also digital wearables. We've been designing a fashion brand for the metaverse right now, and just collaborating with artists that I really love. And just there's so much happening. It's just, and oh yeah, the one thing I'm very excited about, which I just did this weekend, is I'm doing a whole like crypto Web3 based EP for my next album. And I have my first song, and it's called To the Moon with Like Mike and Dimitri Vegas. And it's a crypto-based NFT, like we talk about basically everything, the metaverse, crypto, NFTs, all of that in the song. And I'm really excited for everyone to hear the song and also see the music video and perform it at Tomorrowland, the biggest music festival in the world this summer.
To the Moon is the perfect ending for this. Paris, thank you so much for your time and for all of your work leading the way in this space.
Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure. I love this space. I love the community. And tell Gary I said what up. I love him. So inspired by him. I'm listening to all of his podcasts. He's just so brilliant. And yeah, so happy to be on here. And you guys have an awesome team.
Thanks, Paris.
Fantastic. Thank you, Paris. Next, we welcome Alexandra Ford English. She is the Global Brand Merchandising Director at Ford Motor Company. Alexandra was elected to the board of directors at Ford last year and is responsible for driving growth through an expanded collection of lifestyle merchandise. Previously, Alexandra led markets and operations for Ford's autonomous vehicle. Welcome, Alexandra.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
Alexandra, thank you so much for making the time. You are, such an amazing person, and you've done such incredible work with Ford. We're grateful to have you on this show. So thank you for being here with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Amazing. So Alexandra, I would love to hear your perspective. You've got a very deep and entrenched relationship with Ford. I'd love for you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself and a little bit about how you are building the Ford fan base in new ways into the future.
Great. Yes, I do have quite the background of Ford Motor Company. I've been with the company in my personal life since day one, but professionally joined the company a couple of years ago. And we've been in a variety of spaces within the company, all of which I consider sort of the new. So autonomous vehicles, mobility, the software in the vehicles. And I recently moved over into our merchandising and licensing space, which I actually was working in the retail industry prior to joining Ford and thought I had left those days behind me, sort of sadly, and it's all coming full circle. So traditionally, we've had a sort of core licensing business. But what's really exciting about what we're doing now is using merchandising and licensing to attract new customers to our brand and then also engage our existing customers in different ways. And so one of the things we're thinking about in expanding our portfolio is Web3 and how can we engage customers in different areas, in different products. But what I'm most excited about is traditionally our company is a product company, and that's great. But with NFTs and the metaverse and Web3, we're able to layer in digital products, experiences, and really engage those customers in new ways and add new value to our customers, and then attract people who, frankly, probably have never really looked at Ford and might buy a vehicle of ours and might not, and that's okay too. So really the possibilities seem quite endless in this space.
Amazing. And Alexandra, Ford's another one of those sort of leading American institutions, icons. How has it been navigating the world of Web3 for a company like yours, knowing that in a lot of ways, actually, like Henry Ford was like the technical pioneer who really like changed the game for American innovation in so many ways. And, now generations later, here we are doing it again. How is it navigating the world of Web3 for a huge company like Ford?
Well, entering the space in an authentic way is very important to us. And you know that, Avery. So we're actually working with Vayner NFT to think about how we enter in a authentic, but also very sustainable way. So this is more than sort of a marketing headline approach for us. We believe there's real value here. And you mentioned the evolution of the vehicle. There's so much software in our vehicle, and increasingly so. And that's only going to go up and up. So the utility of the vehicle is increasingly going to be in the software and less in the hardware, although that will still be important. Therefore, there's so much we can do in the Web3 space, but it's right now we're balancing the moving fast with actually building something sustainable, which is always a tension. We don't want to get left behind or caught on our back foot. But at the same time, there's no, I would say, very clear path or obvious partners throughout the value chain and the tech stack. And so we're really evaluating that in real time, making sure that we have the best customer experience and figuring out how we need to build our internal and external presence to really support that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Alexander, I've been very impressed with how thoughtful, how strategic you are, and how sustainability minded Ford is as an institution, really thinking about sustainability, not just in the sort of emissions of NFTs, but really in sustainability of the program. How can you all design something that enables Ford loyalists and Ford fans and Ford communities to interact with you all in this way? So how are you starting to think about like including some of the other more traditional aspects in concert with Web3? Is there a way we could ever think about, a digital collectible version of a Ford, or maybe even a metaverse Ford, sort of building off of what Paris Hilton just mentioned in Paris World? Could we drive my virtual Ford in a virtual metaverse sometime in the next few years?
Definitely. I think all that's on the table, and that's what's so exciting. The customer bar for what they expect out of their products is really high. And I think that it's going to become much more accepted and normal and candidly demanded from our customers that I buy this car in real life, or I'm simply an enthusiast of this car in real life, and I want to either own it or participate in it in my digital life as well. Those lines are getting really blurred, and we need to be able to adapt to our customer. So I can't reveal anything today. That will be coming soon, I promise.
Coming soon, yes.
Coming soon, I promise.
Awesome. And, you mentioned licensing at the top of this call, and, Ford has a huge licensing business for hats, t-shirts, whatever. And I've even seen people sort of like engage Ford in the metaverse and ask when you all are jumping into this. So I know the community is excited, and because I think a lot of that self-expression is now manifesting in the world of Web3 as well. People want to collect things from brands that they love, from celebrities they love, from music that they love, and kind of associate that with themselves. So how are you able to build a culture that balances the iconic at Ford while leaning into the future? Like, how do you strike that right balance from just a personal perspective?
Yeah, that's always a tension. And you see us do it a little bit in our vehicle product line. So we electrified the F-150. So we have our Lightning coming out. So how can we stay true to our core vehicles and our core customer, but then also attract that really tech forward customer? And so I think at the beginning, at least, my personal hypothesis is that's going to be the type of customer who's interested in our NFT presence, our Web3 presence, the metaverse. And so maybe at the beginning, it's more about our software and tech future vehicles. But I do believe there's this nostalgia for some of our more historical nameplates and our collectible cars, if you will.
Mustang, come on.
Mustang. I mean, all the variants of that. We have we have a lot of brand love when it comes to those iconic vehicles. And there already is demand for owning those in the digital space. We need to figure out how to do that in a way that preserves the value, not just for the company, which of course is important, but preserves the value for that customer. Because one of the reasons they're so beloved in the physical space is there's a finite number of them. People have restored them hands-on. There's that very tangible, tactical element. And so how do you not just flood the Web3 space with a lot of Ford stuff? We've actually, one of the things that's been most surprising to me since going on this venture has been the level of interest internally at Ford for NFTs and Web3 in the metaverse. On the one hand, it's been great because we've been able to move really quickly. On the other hand, like you were mentioning, we can't just flood the space with everything Ford because it dilutes it for our customer. And we want to create a very clear point of view, but we will be satisfying the new tech and then also doing some old nostalgia as well.
Alexander, that's so inspirational. And I also have to echo that I've just been incredibly impressed with how forward-thinking Ford is, how educated internally your teams are, and how they're leaned into exploring, being thoughtful, strategic as Ford starts to make its first forays into the space, which will be announced soon. So one sort of final question for you, more broadly than just Ford, how do you think some of the work that's happening in the Web3 space might redefine sort of customer experience and interactions with brands over time?
It's a great question. One of the things will be just the level of accessibility. So we'll be thinking much more on a global scale. We're a global company, but I think it's going to be just table stakes that you think globally, and that also you have a much more direct conversation with your customer and are able to offer this experiential component as well. So gone are the days when you just put a product out there, hope somebody buys it, and the company's job is over. And it's going to be a much more frequent, ongoing, and reoccurring conversation and interaction with the customer, which will be great for the customer because that's a much more compelling offer. It'll be great for the companies as well to have that much hands-on interaction with the customer. I mean, today companies can only dream of such things as you're putting products out there sort of one by one. So I think if anything, it's just going to up the ante for what's expected out of product more generally.
I think that's so smart. So increasing globalization and really that iterative feedback loop that just becomes always on, particularly as we scale out accessibility. And I think you made a really smart point around scarcity that's super important when you consider NFT programs, because when you look at the most successful programs to date, and we've talked about some of them on this show, whether it's Boss Beauties or VFriends or Pepsi Mic Drop or CryptoPunks, they're actually a small number, and that scarcity drives value and it drives desirability. So it's amazing to hear you echo that same point. So Alexandra, thank you so much for tuning in. Everyone stay tuned to Ford's moves in this space. And thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you both. And thanks, Avery. We love you. Next up, we welcome VaynerMedia's Chief Innovation Officer, Eric Jacobs, who will interview our next few guests. And a big welcome to Sean Morson, artist, curator, and community builder. In 2021, Sean founded the BlkChain as a way to amplify the work of women, BIPOC, and LGBTQ artists and collectors in NFTs. Sean is currently head of community at the Palm NFT Studio, an ecosystem built on culture and creativity. Welcome, Eric and Sean.
Thanks so much, Andrea, and welcome, Sean. It's great to have you on.
Thanks
Make
so
it mute. You're great. Cool. One of the things about your background, you are just incredibly multi-talented. You're an entrepreneur, you're an author, you're an investor, you're a producer, you're an artist. So maybe you can start by telling us a little bit about yourself and how you first got into the Web3 space.
Yeah, I like to say that I'm an entrepreneur at heart. You mentioned some of the things that I do, entrepreneur, investor, author, but I do believe that community building has been the common thread through everything that I've done. So even if you consider the 3 companies that I started a software development company that's literally called Collective Mobile. So the idea of working collectively. I also started a co-working space in Atlanta, which is one of the first co-working spaces focused on the underrepresented community. So this idea of community building has always been central to who I am and what I do. I came to Web3 in a sort of a very circuitous way. I think that I should at this moment give a hat tip to all of the folks who really tried to explain Bitcoin to me a few years ago, and I just simply did not get it. And it was, the confluence of those things, the pandemic and everything that really happened last year that really made it click for me. And it clicked for me with NFTs because I'm also a creative as well. So the notion of provenance and sovereignty for the artist really, really resonated with me. And so that is how I got here. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful ride, I have to say.
Yeah, it's incredibly exciting that the space is still so new and we're all figuring out together what everything is going to look like. Yeah. So you mentioned that community is a thread that runs through all of your history. And as head of community at Palm NFT, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what Palm is and what community means there.
Yeah, so Palm is relatively new. We are a technology company, and I like to say that we exist at the intersection of art and entertainment. I think, as was touched on in the intro, we are building an ecosystem for culture and creativity. And when they reached out to me, those 2 things really excited me, right? Because that's sort of part and parcel of where I come from. But what also excites me about what we're doing at Palm is the notion that we can, along with our partners, onboard the next million. You talked about us being really, really early in the space. And so those of us who have been in this space for a year are considered like OGs, but there are so many other people moving into the space every day. And I think that the Palm NFT Studio, along with our partners, will definitely be instrumental in onboarding the next million. When I think about community in that respect, what's important to me is making sure that as we onboard those people, as we bring those people into the Web3 ecosystem, that community, that those people that we galvanize around the Palm network is as diverse, as engaged as possible. So that's how I see my role as head of community.
Absolutely. And when we at Vayner talk about Web3 and NFTs and brands moving into this space, we always lead through the lens of community and how community building is so important and how community is the only way that any brand or any project for that matter is going to have any success at all in this space. And so in terms of that, as we talk to marketers on this program, how would you suggest that brands engage or interact with these communities as they're tiptoeing or creeping or walking or running into the space?
Yeah, it's a really, really great question. I think a four-pronged approach, right? Educate, because that presents wonderful opportunities. Incentivize, engage, and then focus on retention. For me, I think that Web3 presents really wonderful opportunities for marketers to think differently than they did in Web2, particularly when it comes to incentivizing audiences, I think, and communities. I think that audiences and communities in Web3 have learned from Web2 and they understand the value that they bring. And so this notion of a corporation or a brand building on the backs of the community and them getting nothing is literally a thing of the past. They want to be incentivized. And it's really up to marketers, I think, to understand the unique needs of their audience and their community and to be able to incentivize them accordingly. We who are in this space, we've heard of the airdrops and the roadmaps and all of that, but I think that's really where you're going to make, I think, a big difference with your community, is how you incentivize them.
Absolutely. And along the lines of the topics of incentivization and airdrops and some of these more mechanical things, you're also a storyteller. So in terms of Web3 and NFTs, what are some of the new stories that brands are able to tell leveraging this technology, or ways that narrative can be part of these activations that brands are doing in this space?
Oh, I think Web3 opens up a wonderful world for storytelling. I think for brands in particular, there's so much they could do. I think it really depends on what your brand is and how you lean into. I think there's an opportunity to really trace the history of a brand in a wonderfully unique way in Web3. I'm seeing interesting things happening with specifically around storytelling with film and Web3, and know that we focus mostly on art and now music, but I think that there are interesting possibilities that narrative storytelling, filmmaking hold in the space as well. I've featured a filmmaker a few weeks ago who minted her film on the BlkChain, and I think that brands can certainly tap into those opportunities as well.
Yeah. Double clicking there in terms of both community engagement, storytelling, do you have a short list of do's and don'ts for brands engaging in Web3 and NFTs? Maybe things that you've seen work particularly well, things that you've seen not go so well?
I think that it's really important for brands to think long term. We touched briefly on the idea of a roadmap. And a roadmap is not just what happens from now until the launch. You have to think well past the launch and really think about how you're going to continually evolve the story of what you're doing. I think that is the biggest thing. I don't even have like a do or a don't. I think keeping that in mind, I think the idea of how you continually engage your community is going to be critical. You loop your story into that and everything else. But if you drop the ball there, I think not a good thing.
Absolutely. Our time is almost up, but I absolutely wanted to hear about your project BlkChain and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so when I got into the space, I approached it from an investor's lens, right? I had a thesis about what I wanted to see, and naturally, because of who I am and the work that I've done, I was looking for people that looked like me, and I didn't necessarily see as much as that as I would have liked. And so, given my entrepreneurial background, I thought, hey, that there's something that doesn't exist here. And so my natural inclination is to create what I don't see. And so to that end, I created the BlkChain. I started as a weekly newsletter. It has since then evolved into a community of artists and collectors. We amplify the work of women and BIPOC and LGBTQ artists and collectors in the NFT space. And so it's been thriving and growing. We now have the audacious goal of creating the largest diverse digital art collection anywhere. So we're off to the races.
Yeah, very impressive, and looking forward to seeing more from that and what that project gives to the world. Last question for you. Apart from your own projects, some of your favorite Web3 or NFT communities, projects, things that you think are interesting, fascinating, telling for marketers out there?
Yeah, I love what the Cool Cats are doing. I think barring some recent minor delays, I really love the way that they're rolling that out. I could comment on Bake, but I'm not, because I think everyone will probably touch on that, so I'll leave that alone. I love a lot of the women-led projects that I'm seeing in the space. I love the intention around inclusivity that I see around some of the women projects, the women-led projects in the space. I think that we don't necessarily, some of those projects don't float to the top as much as they should, but Women Rise and Boss Babes, they're doing fantastic work in the space. And I think that they don't necessarily get as much credit as they're due.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to seeing how things like BlkChain and some of the other projects in the space can forward some of those projects and put a spotlight on them.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks so much, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sean. Next up, we welcome Peg Samuel, co-founder and head of entertainment at Fierce Studios. Peg is an innovation tech consultant, NYU professor, advisor, and author, and she's been in the digital space for more than 25 years. She specializes in communications and connecting the dots for tech businesses. Welcome, Peg.
Hello.
How's it going, Peg? It's wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, and I'm just grinning because we have two incredibly multi-talented women. You are also what I call a slash founder slash professor slash author slash marketer slash OG in the Web3 space. So I think the audience would love to hear a little bit about you, how you got into the Web3 space originally, and maybe some of the projects that you're working on these days.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, because I'm currently head of entertainment and co-founder of Fierce Studios, and we'll get to that. But exactly, in 25 years, you get a lot of slashes. The quick journey is I was around for Web 1. Like, I worked at Weather Channel before weather.com came out. And I was like, I want to work on this. What is this? This is amazing. And then just stayed in digital marketing communications for my whole career. So it's like Web 1, then I had a social media agency. And so Web 2, and now Web 3. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, we're playing with this narrative within VaynerMedia that if Web 1 was the rise of the digital agency and Web 2.0 was the rise of the social agency, does that mean that Web 3 is the rise of the metaverse agency? And what might that be in terms of shifting consumer attention, in terms of technologies, time spent, culture, new ways of engaging with technology like NFTs and AR, VR? I'm curious if that resonates with you at all as someone who's a native crypto person, but also a marketer.
Yeah, I mean, that absolutely, I love this question. That's so smart and I appreciate it. And I would expect nothing less from Vayner. This is so great. So, the one thing for Web3, it's like community, and everybody touched upon that. I actually, spent the time listening to all the different speakers leading up to me, and it's been incredible. And you've touched on it, like metaverse. We've gotten into the metaverse in my project, and I really thought we were, in some ways, in some places, it's too soon. And in metaverse, I'm like, okay, these are, I have a co-founder. She's amazing. She's visionary. Her name's Michelle McCormick. And she was talking metaverse early on. And I thought, okay, we'll get there. But it has been like the super speed of crypto and NFTs to get there now. And been really fun. And I agree that like Web3 means community, and that community like rules. And now, because of globally, we've had, pandemic, and then all the we're all now more comfortable with tech and connecting this way, and Clubhouse had come out that like, let's meet in the metaverse.
Absolutely. So we touched briefly upon Fierce Studios. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that project is?
Absolutely.
I think it's a great intersection of brands and Web3 technology. So would love to hear for the marketers out there how brands are working with you at Fierce Studios.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's interesting. It's like, okay, we have these ideas. We wanted to do this project, but when you bring in other brands or people, it's like, and even community, it's like, let's meet the market where it's at. So it's Fierce Studios. We're a 10,000 generative PFP project. And we brought real models in. So we have diversity. That was very important to us. And the generative thing is it builds community, and it's meeting the market where it's at. And at first we were able to do a deal with Saucony, the global sneaker brand. And we drew in as a rarity trait, these sneakers. And again, like we thought, let's just do it as a little rarity trait versus, something really in your face. And so that's how we tied in with that brand. And then now that that's live, we'd like to like march some brands over to the metaverse with wearables. But in the meantime, we're just simply connecting them up and gifting our PFPs based on traits. So it's like kind of like baby steps into full blown metaverse, like degen.
Absolutely. Before we go further, can you explain to everybody what PFP stands for and what that is, what kind of project that is?
Very good point. So PFP, I think it's the profile pic. Gosh, for a second I was thinking, wait a minute, what is it? What is it? Oh no. So profile pic. So what happened, the phenomenon that happened, and this would be like my professor hat, is like as NFTs went really bullish over the pandemic, people started changing their Twitter avatar to flex their NFTs as their profile pic. And now it's just like really fun. And also it's kind of funny because I was like, okay, this is what I actually look like not the avatar sometimes. So yeah.
Absolutely. One of the things that we talk about in terms of Web3 for brands and NFT projects is that we see Web3 and NFTs as a continuation of human behaviors that have endured for thousands of years. And one of those is the love to flex and demonstrate social status. And so if you think about the floor price for some of these projects, a Bored Ape, for example, starts at $300,000. And so if you have a Bored Ape as your PFP, that means that either one, you're incredibly wealthy and able to afford having essentially a JPEG represent you at that price point, or number two, you were with that community from the beginning and got it at an affordable price. And in either case, there's a level of social clout or status that is involved, and that's the flexing that's gone from forever and from social media now to Web3.
Totally. That's why I'm getting even more and more bullish on wearables, because from a reality standpoint, right, it's the same thing. Like, why is this worth so much money? And there's some stats there, and I've seen some brands that are early on in gaming, I'm not sure if Gucci's the right example, but it's like a Gucci bag is worth a Gucci bag. Like, it'll be just as expensive. But when I think about it and I show up in one of the metaverses, you can dress up your avatar and it's flexing right there too. It's Absolutely. Like, oh, what are they wearing? Like, I want to wear something like that. So it's the same thing is going to come over, but it can be like fun and adventurous and, unique. And so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. One of the things that I really like about your projects there is that the NFTs include utility, and utility is one of the things that we talk about as being a great gateway for some of these projects. And so would love to talk about at a high level how you see utility playing a role in some of these projects and the specific utility that's built into some of your partnerships and collaborations with brands.
Yeah, for sure. And I think some of this stuff is like, it's been said here already, like we're building the plane as we're flying it, right? And it's like, where can we meet brands where they're at, or what do people want? Like what does our community want, but what can we also offer? So sometimes I know this is not the definition of utility, but sometimes as like a tech person, I'm thinking, well, isn't there some coded secret sauce, like coded into these NFTs that then will unlock and, all of those things. And yes, that is incredibly interesting to me. And I think I'm really bullish on the tech, right? And, but on a simplified matter for some brands, just kind of reeling them in, it's like, hey, utility to me can also mean gifting. Like, hey, we have an example. We did something with Pro Flowers, which is like an FTD. And what we simply did was around Valentine's Day, we gifted so our avatars have many traits. For people that don't know traits, it's like generative projects, just like trade up with different things. So one of our traits is an afro with roses in the hair. So simply enough, we said, hey, Pro Flowers, let's, they want to work with us. Let's gift in like a giveaway style, our holders that have that trait. And we sent them IRL 24 roses for Valentine's Day. But taking it a step further, it'd be like really fun to then say, okay, well, can we bring those roses over to the metaverse and gift the whole collection? And that becomes a gift / a utility / tech. Could the NFT unlock, roses at a later standpoint? So like some of those ideas I think could be really cool and fun for whoever's game for it.
Absolutely. And it's almost as though these cases of utility give brands the opportunity to do things in terms of providing benefits, whether that's digital goods. Gary has an NFT under his VFriends collection called the Gift Goat, where holders receive 3 or 4 gifts per year, and that might be an NFT, but it also might be something physical. And similarly, brands can do interesting things, whether holding that token unlocks another NFT or some sort of token gated experience, but it could also be discounts for physical goods. It could also be loyalty program type special benefits. So there really is a fascinating world here to unlock.
I agree, because I think with brands, it's like, okay, what are all the things that you've been doing? This is back to Web 1 or 2, right? Like all the promotions, but how can you authentically bring it into the metaverse? So it's like, last thing we want to do is like shoot out a bunch of discount code as an NFT, right? Or something. It's like, how do you mindfully bring it in so the community is like really stoked about it? And so they're just, they're all things to be worked on, and it's all innovation to be had. Some things you think could be interesting and then you see it flop, or vice versa, so it's like, it's really fun. And honestly, like I almost was going to say it because I hear it all the time, like it's the wild, wild west, right? But for me, if it's called that, I'm literally in the middle of the right place, because it's always so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question for you. We had Sean, we have you, 2 incredible women in the Web3 NFT space. Would love to hear if you have any favorite women-led projects in the Web3 or NFT world that you'd like to shout out.
Yeah, for sure. Except for our own, right? Fierce. I've been following World of Women and everything they're up to. I mean, they have checked so many boxes since the beginning. That's been amazing. Fame Ladies, like the takeover, incredible, longer story probably, but people could look that up. And the other one that I've been really bullish, interesting, is Wow Pixies. They are derivative, but they're going to do their own art. And then there's a DAO. Interesting.
Yeah. I'd like to give a special shout out to Flower Girls, which is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They're beautiful too.
They are.
Yeah. There's so many.
There are. It's a wonderful thing that the group of women-led projects seems to be expanding day by day.
Yeah.
In any case, it's been wonderful to have you, Peg. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Peg. I just did want to mention that for those that want to hit Peg Up. Her Twitter handle, her additional Twitter handle is @FierceStudioNFT. Thank you so much, Eric, for leading all of those conversations.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. All right. Well, last but certainly not least, we have the Congressman Tom Emmer, who joined Avery Akkineni earlier this week in a pre-recorded conversation. We're going to be sharing it with you now on just a little bit of a background on Tom. He is currently serving his 4th term in Congress and sits on the House Financial Services Committee. He grew up in Minnesota and served in the Minnesota House of Reps from 2004 to 2008. Listen into the conversation now. You don't want to miss this one.
Good morning and hello, everyone. Welcome to Marketing for the Now. I'm Avery Akkineni, president of VaynerNFT, and I'm so fortunate to be joined by Tom Emmer. Tom, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us on the show.
Glad to be with you, Avery.
Awesome. Tom, we'd love to learn a little bit more about you. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Well, my name's Tom Emmer. I represent one of the 8 congressional districts, House districts in the state of Minnesota. It's called the 6th District of Minnesota. I've been in the U.S. House of Representatives now. I think this is my 4th term that we're a little bit more than halfway through. I sit on the House Financial Services Committee. They call it the ranking member because we're in the minority. The ranking member on the House Oversight Committee. Obviously, I'm a co-chair of the BlkChain caucus and have been now for a while because of some things I hope we're going to talk about this morning because it's a big interest of mine. Look, I have, as I was talking about with one of your colleagues earlier, I have my wife and I have 7 kids, ages 31 down to almost 21, and it keeps you young. It keeps you young. It keeps you looking at things that they're doing in a world that is fast changing. And you know what, Avery, all you and your peers are going to be looking at a completely different social fabric than what we have had growing up. And that's who I am. That's where I come from. That's why I'm so interested in what we're going to talk about.
Fantastic. And Tom, you've beyond just sort of your role in sort of leading the blockchain caucus, you've actually introduced legislation to provide clarity for blockchain innovators. Can you share a little bit more about this legislation and what it means to normal folks?
Right. I've introduced 3 bills that provide regulatory clarity for tax law, securities law, and money transmission laws. And I've introduced one bill that focuses on leading digital currency innovation that would be open, permissionless, and private. Same attributes as cash, Avery. But the first one, the Securities Clarity Act, would allow the SEC and token issuers to easily determine when a token is offered as part of a securities contract. I mean, some of your audience probably is well aware of the lack of leadership we've seen out of Gary Gensler at the SEC. He seems to be conducting regulation through enforcement actions and public statements. This would allow, which by the way, creates all kinds of uncertainty. This would allow entrepreneurs, innovators, some certainty in the marketplace so they know if they have to comply with securities laws, as opposed to what we have now, in my opinion, which is a full employment opportunity for lawyers who are trying to interpret this Howey test that existed long before the Satoshi white paper. The next one is the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. This would assert that blockchain entities that never custody consumer funds are never considered money transmitters. Then we have the Safe Harbor for Taxpayers with Forked Assets Act, which would protect taxpayers from a tax obligation that they did not seek out and might not even know they have. As you know, if a blockchain forks, you and I may not have anything to do with that decision. But right now, it could have some tax consequences that, again, I don't think we should be responsible for if we didn't actually create that fork. And then recently, we offered the Central Bank Digital Currency Bill. This is one that's close to my heart because I've got some serious heartburn when our government says they're going to create a CBDC, and they're going to follow China's lead. Our bill would prohibit the U.S. government from developing a surveillance tool that would strip away financial freedom and, I believe, deflate the dollar's dominance. So those are the bills right now that we've been pushing, and frankly, we've gotten some great response.
Tom, you must have had a lot of thoughts when the new executive order came out yesterday.
The executive order, it's you might take a look at our Twitter stream, Twitter. Now I'm
Twitter feed. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. The Twitter feed. You might take a look at that because it's very interesting. We did point out that we've had a chance to go through that here in the office, and let's just say the good news is they're directing the bureaucracies to start to study this. Let's be realistic. Good for you, Mr. President. Good for you, Biden administration. But in fact, they've been studying it for quite some time now. The question is if you're going to recognize the talent that is within these bureaucracies that is forward thinking, that is actually looking at this as an opportunity as opposed to a danger. It seems to me like the people at the top of the pyramid in this government are scared to death of crypto. They're scared to death of losing their ability to be the ultimate intermediary in our financial transactions. And so they're trying how to, they tried to kill it, in my opinion, initially. They couldn't do that because this is going to happen with or without us, I believe. And now they're trying to figure out how to absorb it into themselves. That's where a CBDC scares the living daylights out of someone like me. But I digress. So they put it out. They said they're going to study it. Great. We were laughing this morning about the fact that Gary Gensler wasn't asked for anything. That's probably the best thing that's in the executive order is they didn't ask him for any input since he's been giving awful output for the last several, I would suggest months. But listen, if we're going to take, I'm a glass half full, sky is blue kind of person. So if we just get rid of the cynicism and perhaps some of my skepticism, the fact that they're actually acknowledging it and that they're going to, have some discussion about it internally that we hope will lead to some external leadership, I think that's a good thing. But let's just say it's not all encompassing. These guys have a long way to go before they understand what stable coins really are or what they might mean. And the list is much longer than that. They just hear crypto and some of them just go, oh.
Yeah. Well, it's I like the way that you called it regulatory clarity, which I think is really what a lot of consumers and crypto users are seeking. So, Tom, you're clearly incredibly well versed in this stuff. What inspired you to jump headfirst into the world of blockchain and crypto? Was it seeing your kids sort of in this ecosystem, or seeing your constituents?
It really starts with my own family, right? I was one of these. My wife and I were parents that you got to get out, right? I want you on the hockey rink. I want you out in the woods. I want you fishing. I want you doing stuff that's outside. And you probably have heard this from your own family, Avery.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing on that computer? Get outside. Do whatever.
Get off your phone. Yes.
Right. Well, it really stems from all of them. But I would tell you probably the most influential was our baby, who's now a sophomore in college. He started working at age 15. As young people get money, right? They start to earn their own income. They don't need their parents telling them what to do with it, right? So he literally built his own computer, got me to start thinking, I would never do stuff like this. In fact, I probably was more afraid in the beginning that this kid is about to start mining his own Bitcoin out of my house. And what does that mean? But
what does that mean for energy bills?
Right. Well, but talking to him too, by the way, Avery, I have learned that the younger generation does not see things the way mine does. My generation grew up with a book in their hand. My generation grew up with newspapers on the kitchen table. My generation grew up with a radio in the car that I pushed the buttons. And the biggest innovation in the 1970s moving into the 80s was, oh, we've got FM. What is this FM thing? That's cool. Well, that's not the world we live in today. And so you're talking to somebody who sees things more in 2 dimension, right? You start talking about those innovators today, those entrepreneurs, my kids and their peers, they see in 3D. They see beyond 3D. They have an ability to do abstract thinking and vision, forward-looking vision that we don't have. So I became, then I have another child. He's not a child. He's a full-grown adult that's making a good living, who got involved in trading cryptocurrencies, right? I personally have tried to stay away, because if I do start trading, people here are going to say, look, Emmer's all into this industry because he's invested. No, my wife would like me to be, but I think right now, if we're going to be an advocate for the entrepreneurs out there, for this space in our financial system, for this evolution, I think it's better that we don't have that criticism. So these guys got me to look at things that perhaps I never would have, and think in ways that I never would have. So I actually evolved, because probably my entire life, I've been very suspicious of government. And what this cryptocurrency exposure has done is it's expanded me to start looking at the real thing for me, which cryptocurrency is facilitating, is the evolution of Web 2, which is all intermediaries based, to Web 3, where you and I, we will have our own digital identities, and we can do business directly with each other. We don't need an intermediary. It's that example that I've given before about YouTube. You're aspiring young entertainer, whether you're a singer, a comedian, who knows, although comedians, they're not allowed to be funny about much anymore. But let's just say you're an aspiring entertainer. Today, you're putting your content out there, perhaps on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Well, great. Somebody else controls that platform. And the only way you can derive value for the value you're providing is if you sell advertising directly to that YouTube site. Think of a world, Avery, where I don't need YouTube anymore. I can create an NFT, I can put it out there, and people can literally give me value if they see value in what I've offered in that non-fungible token. So, and this will evolve more, but to me, that's the big issue, is the evolution from Web 2 to Web 3. I don't need big tech. I don't need big government. I don't need big whatever keeping their eye on me and controlling my data, which, by the way, it's interesting to me. We may not be pleased at times with certain politicians, but it's interesting that the intermediaries in this country exclude certain political views, but there's a guy in the Kremlin who apparently can still gain access. That's why it's so important for you and me to be able to make our own decisions. And I'm not saying intermediaries will be totally gone, but Avery and Tom should be able to decide when we want to use an intermediary and when we just want to do business directly.
Absolutely. Tom, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I know you're joining us at VCon, which is Gary Vaynerchuk's first ever conference for VFriends token holders. So we're so excited to see what VCon. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us, sharing your viewpoints. Incredibly interesting, and we're really grateful to you for being with us here today.
Thank you, Avery. Look forward to seeing you in Minneapolis. Thanks.
Thanks everybody for hanging on to catch that last one. Please join us for our next episode of Marketing for the Now on April 14th. From 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern time, where we will talk about what are your hot takes for 2022. We have a great list of authors and business leaders and industry icons that are going to be joining us for that one. Please hit us up. Let us know what you thought about this episode, and we hope to see you very, very soon.